Well, you see, that's the whole point, is the word lie needs to be defined. Sometimes not telling the truth, all of the truth, is your moral obligation. And you have a moral obligation to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth at all times to anyone who asks you. You would say, that's not in the Bible. The moral thing to do is for me not to tell you. You ain't getting nothing out of me. Those issues relating to whether you have a moral obligation to tell the whole truth at all times to everyone, that needs to be answered by pointing out you don't. You do not owe them the truth. And see, that's another fallacy. People run around thinking life is just, and they run around thinking you owe the truth to everyone. You don't. That's what the Bible teaches.
That was from Morey's available audio tape from the REF, catalog number J54.
If someone tells you ahead of time that they don't believe that it's wrong to lie, can you believe them for anything they say after that? If someone tells you they believe it's all right to lie if they get in a pinch, how can you believe them anyway? At any time.
Now, this is the form that's required to be filed. It's 990 EZ, and the government requires this to be returned, or this form to be filed as a return of an organization that's exempt from income tax. And what it does is just give more or less a financial report of what that organization is doing by way of handling money. And at the bottom line of this, Morey, and he's the one that filed this thing here, he's got an acknowledgement of a loan, and it's to Larry Wessels and Gary Wessels, two different items there, and the total amount comes to $32,088. What is that? What is that bottom figure?
Well, this is Larry Wessels is 28,918.26, and Gary Wessels is 4,066.91.
All right, added together, that's $32,984 or $85, something like that. Almost $33,000. Now, that is acknowledged as a debt he owes to y'all.
That's
In
correct.
fact, now that I've found the record, let me show this to the viewers here, and then we'll pick up some more on this. But now I wrote to the IRS itself. I don't want anyone to think we're just creating this out of the air.
Right.
Anyone can write to the IRS because the REF is listed as a nonprofit corporation. And so their tax records are available to anyone that wants them. And so I wrote to the IRS, and this is my actual envelope that came from the IRS. It's got the postmark here, December 21st, 1994, Larry Wessels, Research Education. It gives my address and everything, even though I still wasn't a member of REF at that time. They still put that on there. And then as I open this up, you know, I've got a record here from the IRS, and I had requested 3 years of REF tax returns. I wanted to find out what they've been doing for 3 years, okay? And they basically give me tax periods December 31st through 1991, December 31st, 1992, December 31st, 1993. That's the periods I want. Well, what happens is, let's see if I can go to the next one here. Oh, yeah, here it is. It says here in this letter from the IRS, after a thorough search of our files, we find no record of the forms you requested for years December 31, 1991 or December 31, 1993. So they don't have records. They don't have records for 2 of these 3 years I'm asking about. But they do have records of this 1 year, which is the one I got from the IRS, the 1992 tax return. And as we go through all these IRS pay, and anyone will get this that writes off to the IRS. I think it costs like $12 so to get the documents, but you'll get them from them. So here's the 1992 return that my brother was just showing. He had a copy of it. But this is the actual forms they sent me from the IRS. And it's the same thing, you know, photocopied in our process. It has the documentation on here about the money owed, almost $33,000. And lo and behold, if the camera can move in on this, look at this. It's signed by who else but Robert A. Morey. It's dated 3/29/93. So he signed it March 29, 1993. Gary, you were the preparer on this form.
Right. I also want to mention that the records now, all the books and all the papers are in the possession of Ann Morey, who's the wife of Robert Morey.
And also the chairman of the board of the Research and Education Foundation. So he states in a signed document that he not only owes us the money, but all the records and substantiation for this were kept in his wife's possession. So they act like they don't know anything, and yet they, right on their own form, they claim this is done, and the records have been filed with, or on file with his wife.
And just,
he's the chairman of the board.
Just so they wouldn't miss it, I also prepared another statement.
Hold that up for the camera.
And it listed it again, just so they would have a balance sheet to show everything. And here the loans payable are again for the second time in the tax return. So it appears twice. So if they say they missed it, I mean, I did everything but highlight it. So.
And in fact, that form was, I mean, you can get this from the IRS. I mean, it's just part of the papers they'll send you. But there it is right there, liabilities. Loan payable, L. Wessels, $28,918.26. Loan payable, G. Wessels, $4,066.91. He even has a loan payable to Dr. R. Morey for $1,189.37. I wonder if he got his money. But anyway, the key is this is easily available from a federal institution. I just want the cameras to zoom in on this one last thing I wanted to say about the return. The IRS will also provide you with a copy of the envelope in which the return was sent to the IRS. And if the camera can get in close on this, what you'll see here is this is the actual document, a copy of the envelope that the IRS will provide anyone that writes to the IRS about this REF tax return. You'll see the handwriting here. It says Research Ed Foundation, RD1, Box 989, Shermansdale, Pennsylvania, 17091, IRS, Philadelphia, PA, and there's the postmark from Shermansdale.
Larry, I don't want to discredit the abilities of the person doing that, but that looked like something there that a 7th grader might do.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you compare the handwriting on this envelope with the handwriting of letters written by hand by Dr. Robert A. Morey, you'll find that this is almost a perfect match. And in fact, I would indeed say that he himself mailed this return to the IRS, and in his national bulk mailouts, where he's claiming that he has no knowledge, no verification, no nothing, here in his own IRS return, he says he's stating he knows all about it.
Well, I can also verify that since I was right in the same room when he was filling this out, and not only did he sign it in my presence, but he also stuck it in this very envelope. Or this is a
so you were an eyewitness to it?
I was an eyewitness to it.
Now, did you have a hard time with Mr. Morey and his associates about getting this return filed?
Very hard time. It was extremely difficult.
What did you have to go through?
I got there, it was a week-long ordeal, basically. And I got there, and this is kind of a long story, but basically
well,
I wanted...
Make it as short as possible.
I wanted the return signed, and I didn't expect any questions because I provided all the documentation. I gave them a huge box of all the receipts. And, you know, if they had any questions, fine. I could tell them exactly where I got all the numbers because everything was right in the box. But anyway, he had one of his accountants, named Dave Helmus, go through the entire return, looking through every last receipt for an entire week, asking me questions. And after that...
He was an REF board member, David Helmus.
Dave Helmus, right.
Yeah, but he's not an accountant. I want to make that clear because Morey said nobody was a certified public accountant on their board.
Right. And he was not a certified public accountant, but I think he was an accountant
just within the organization.
Right, something to do with that. But anyway, he verified every last receipt I had, and at the end of a week, he said, everything looks good, all the receipts are there, you need to sign it. And with that, Robert Morey finally signed it.